Hello, my name is Marcus. I'm the compiler of a collection of therapy quotes entitled 1001 Windmills of the Mind, a collection of advanced self-help quotes taken from what's often called the psychodynamic or the psychoanalytic perspective, which long ago, as I understand, is referred to by some, perhaps many, as philosophical medicine and narrative medicine. We just started a new thread in our encyclopedia of quotes. So we already have 65 chapters, e-booklets, topics on the go already. And just 3 videos ago, we started a new one called Scapegoating. And so this will be part 3 of a 4-video special run on the topic. So in part 1, we covered an article by Vogel and Bell, a classic article on the topic 1960, about how the child plays a role whereby the parents can feel some tension release. They can draw away or draw off their own tension if they coax the child to play some role that lets the parent see something about them displayed, expressed, shown by the child. They feel some release. It keeps the parents together. The child plays that role, which keeps the parents together. That's his identity in his family system, part of the mind, and that's his sense of self from his inner memory point of view. And if he wants to get out of it, he's got to face the role he played with his parents like that. So commonly this is called projective identification strategy, whereby someone doesn't want to admit something about themselves. So benign, regular projection is too embarrassing or too painful to know something about yourself. So you just attribute it outwardly, you just say someone else has it. But projective identification takes it a step further. In the case of a child, you identify with that. You make it yours and demonstrate it, show it, and believe it. And the parent will coax, prod, induce, set it up, manipulate, coerce, emotional blackmail. The child ends up, okay, mother, whatever, Jesus, mother has all the power. The kid will demonstrate this thing that the mother doesn't want to admit about herself. She's not happy, she wasn't successful in life, she feels unlovable or no good or something. So then she feels that something about her that's seen and displayed by the child. By comparison, she feels tension release because her anger at her mother's attack on herself. So she makes the child play herself, and that disperses the anger at herself. It releases onto the other, so she gets tension release, and she's invested in the child playing that role, so it's continuous. No time in the unconscious like that. And the parent, father's doing something. Same thing with the father. So this topic was covered in part 1 by Vogel and Bell. Excellent article from a book called Modern Family, the 1960 book. They have 52 chapters. It's chapter 30. So I read most of it. Check it out. And then in part 2, we did some just sort of miscellaneous quotes on the topic. And now I want to do part 3 here. So in this part 3 on the topic of scapegoating, the overall theme is it keeps the parents together. The child plays a role. The child wants to accept the role. He has to accept the role. He has no choice in the matter, right? That's his connection to the parents. And the child is considered to quote-unquote hold or contain the thing that the mother didn't contain in them respectively. So when the mother was angry, the father was angry, and their parents rejected it, their anger turns in. Okay, so now they want the child to display anger or shame that they don't want to know about themselves. They're kind of like anger and shame. They're kind of like, so they want the child to feel anger and shame, let's say. The scapegoating variety takes a variety of forms. It could be the over-defined one. Some parents actually want the kids to be a little rebellious and rebel with their cause. So that distracts them. It takes their attention away. It blows off steam for them. They vicariously delight in the kids bullying and bossing around because they can't display anger. They couldn't display anger with their mother because their mother's respectively said, "Who do you think are you? Can't be angry at me." So the kid, you show anger, then they feel, I feel some release because the parents, maybe, for example, the parents both have their anger quote-unquote imploded. The child openly acts out the anger. That's like a release like that. So the affect is a signal or emotion or feeling whether your needs are met or not met. So just in general terms, need met, affect or pleasant. Needs unmet. So the child needs connection for his identity to develop. He needs a safe attachment, a connection for his identity to to develop. Oh, sorry. Oh, it's busy here today. I'm in the smoker's balcony of a restaurant here. Let me see if I can move it inside for a little while they take their breaks here. I don't want to leave my stuff here. Hang on a second. Give me a second. Problem is the music is copyrighted here. Let's just hang out here for a little bit. If you notice any skips in the videos, because the stuff up ahead is copyrighted. Usually it is. So hopefully you'll get lucky and some of it will get through. Okay, so this is also known as the emotional triangle dynamic. The emotional triangle. Too much tension between the parents. They feel frustrated. They don't know how to communicate. They're disappointed. They hate each other. Not kind of in a way, because they're not talking. Silent treatment. They compete. I'm number one. You gotta say I'm right. You're wrong. I'm right. So they're battling like that, right? A lot of tension, because if the child comes on the scene, it distracts them. The child could display shame and anger and frustration, things about what's going on with them. The child's openly kind of showing it visibly. It's like kind of popping up. So it has the effect of I don't know what they call it, drawing out the tension, releasing the tension, dispersing the tension. When they see the child expressing it, they feel a little relief like that. So back to the affect idea. So in general terms, when needs are met, the affect is pleasant. Okay, baby feels safe with the mother. He feels pleasant, obviously. So the links between needs and feelings, the famous link between needs and feelings. Needs met, feelings very pleasant. Okay, needs unmet, feelings obviously unpleasant. Now the unpleasant feelings, it starts off with tension, fear, stress, and shame. And the shame builds up to anger, fury, and rage. Like that. So when the child gets to that place of fury and rage, it's going to go one of two ways. It's going to kind of pop up, express up. It's crude. Baby can't hold it. It's kind of raw and crude, and baby can't understand what it means. So it's popping up. So the personality can be hysterical, hypochondria, histrionic, BPD, those kind of erratic, emotional, soap opera kind of personalities. Let's say. Typically, so he calls it this. Barnett calls it simply the hysteric, and a variation, or another version is impulsive. People just do impulsively something. Gotta do something impulsive, or the acting out. That's the physical way to release the emotion, because they can't put words to it. They don't understand. It's too much. They can't hold it. They can't regulate it. They can't soothe it. They can't put words to it. Just so they gotta do something. So in the hysteric version, they're very impressionistic in their vocabulary, and they're wild in their stories. And it's not really real, but it's just trying to. It's just coming out that way in the theatrics of hysterics, right? Impulsive, that might do just something impulsively, right? Just binge eating or shopping quickly, or I don't know. And the acting out is the more physical side of it all. Now, so those are the core three part that goes with, okay, hysteric, impulsive, acting out. If the mother's very hypocritical to the child, and she's very double binding and gaslighting the child, where the mother says, you can't be, who do you think you are? You can't be angry with me. Well, the anger's got to go somewhere. But the anger is a cry for love. So if it blocks so severely, it pops, it implodes, it quote unquote implodes in. So the affect, the emotion, which signals to the mother, mother, I'm signaling to you. You can't signal to me. I don't want your signal. It signals inwardly to protect the mother. Mother can't deal with it, right? See, whenever the child shows needs, okay, it reminds, whenever the child says, I want your TLC, it reminds the mother, I was gaslit, I can't deal with that. It implodes in. That quote's coming up today about the TLC topic. So the child wants tender TLC, tender loving care. Mother freaks out, triggers her, and she, however she does it, the child gets the message that it's forbidden, not allowed, and mother will punish the child or withdraw or abandon the child. So don't show it, I don't want to see it. So the child's got to go somewhere. It's kind of blocked, like the river hitting the bank and implodes it. So this is called, quote unquote, the implosion of affect. The affect is the signal that your need is met. The baby's saying, my anger is a signal of communication, and SOS is the messaging to let you know, to communicate to you. I don't have words here, mother. So my affect is showing you visually, facially, tonally, bodily. I'm showing you the affect that my need is not met. If I look distressed and ashamed and you see me like this, flailing about and angry and screaming and crying and kicking and, tension in my face and my eyes, everything's like this. Obviously, you can see I'm under a lot of tension and fear. You can see fear in me, right? But you can see anger in me. Like, come on, mother, you're not that soul blind, are you? My baby says, well, I can't deal with this, so don't show me that. It implodes in, so rebounds in. That's called the implosion of affect. When the affect implodes in, okay, it'll lead to the core 3 personalities, to use Barnett's model: obsessive, okay, paranoid, and depressive. Those 3 kind of ways. So we just completed recently 15 articles on the work of Joseph Barnett and his wife Tess Forrest. Incredible material. Those 15 articles has won a golden. Oops. I think I finished. Has won a golden Women's in the Wide Award. Oh, he's a staff. Let's go back out there. It is nice here, but I don't want to disturb the guests. Nice place, eh? I just recently opened this for the afternoon. This used to be only open at nights. Great material. Joseph Barnett and his wife Tess Forrest. Great stuff. Incredible, clear writers. Very precise and on point. Very helpful material. So we did 15 pages on it. Anyways. Okay, so if the parents have, so just for example, let's say the parents are both obsessive, paranoid or depressed, let's say, where the affect is imploded in. They might want the kid to have an open expression of affect, impulsive, acting out, or dramatic. They feel a little release. Look how colorful, look how creative, look how dramatic my child is. Look how they do what they want. Yeah, freedom. Look what they feel. Or they openly demanding like that. So they feel a release to see the affect expressed vicariously by the child playing the role. So they want the child to be acting out impulsive or histrionic or BPD-ish or hysterical or something, or dramatic or something like that, or more expressive, because their affect is imploded in, let's say, for both parents like that. Just one example like that. Okay, so but the overarching idea of scapegoating is the kid comes on the scene, and the mother and father don't know how to be proper parents. it turns out that they have a negative collusion, an unspoken collusion, where they've both recreated with themselves their respective childhoods with each other, as above, so below, and they're continuing each other's parents' battle to get love from the other. So they have this one up, one down dynamic where neither of them got their primary dependency needs met. They didn't get the completion of the developmental primary dependency connection needs for their identity. They're still trying to get it to the other person. She didn't get it, he didn't get it, and they're kind of competing like that. And it's a kind of a painful repetition compulsion where you repeat, it fails, repeat, fails, repeat, but it's familiar, it's painful, you're stuck in this kind of thing. So if a kid comes on the scene and they're too busy with the primary issue on their end, they can't be proper parents. So the kid comes on in. Well, since the parents have so much tension, they don't know how to be parents, the child's going to end up doing something in response to that accommodates the parents, that makes the parents feel better, fantasy for the parents. So that role the kid can play, one of many roles, is the scapegoat role. Sometimes it's supposed to be the star, so if he's the child seen, they can feel seen. Narcissistically, they get seen, mirrored. So if they're mirrored or seen or considered good or something, then they feel that, and when others say they're good and they see you, that's the fantasy, they're going to get the connection and resume develop. So if the child is seen, they feel seen. When the parents think they're seen, then they think in the fantasy mother's going to appear, and you'll get a better childhood past where mother connected with you, and you can resume develop. Doesn't work, do it again. Doesn't work, do it again. So back up a sec. The obsessives tend to so those 6 personalities we just mentioned, right? By Barnett, it's the same double problem. None of those 6 personalities, let's say, the commonality of those 6, although they look different, although the top 3 popping up, okay, the acting out impulsive hysteric, okay, and the popping in of affect, okay, depressive, paranoid, and obsessive, OCD, OCD freak, obsessive control, like that. Although they might look a little different, they're still dealing with the same dual issue. None of the 6 got their primary needs met. None of the 6 resolved their identity development issue. The difference is when the affect pops up, it's more about an open display of their narcissistic status to get people to look at them, and the other people looking at them, they think in the theater of the mind, mother's going to respond. In the implosion of affect in, basically, it's kind of hidden, their narcissism's kind of hidden, and if others say they're right or something, or a good boy or something like that. So mainly about the obsessive, if he's perfect in some little micro thing, they say he got a silver sour award. My example for the moment is the WKRP in Cincinnati show, that the Nessman guy. He was an obsessive, very controlled, obsessive freak about the fine details about something about the farming area on the radio, and he got a award. He's so perfect. So you kind of specialize in some really minutiae kind of. It might be important in that little world like that, but he doesn't know anything else. He was also very paranoid. Obsessives and paranoids have a lot of overlap. So if he specializes and he's perfect in it, he thinks other people say he's a good boy. That's the fantasy that his behavior, his identity, and the connection of other people saying he's a good boy, that phenomena or hope that other people say he's a good boy, that's the connection to get the oneness back in the theater of the mind and to resume development. All these personalities are behaving that way with the grand design to get mother's love in the past, to connect with the mother in the past. The theater of the mind doesn't know time, unconscious puppet master, no time. So it's driving the thing. When real needs are not met, you still have that effort to try to get those needs met. Okay, so you want the connection so your identity can develop. Okay, it's called dependency needs, primary dependencies, and your identity develop. The first identity develop is the narcissistic phase. Kings and gods, it's all about you set to stay. You want to get out of that. You don't want to stay in narcissistic mode. Because you can't love, you can't empathy or cry, or you can't mourn, you can't have pleasure, you don't have identity, you can't be a proper parent, you can't have mutual relationships, you can't have thou-to-thou, person-to-person, companion love, and warm play and create. You can't have any of that stuff. You're still in the survival place. So the survival place is the baby repairs no mother. So you're still trying to get mother so you can develop to a place of eye to eye. Not a narcissistic compensation of taking refuge in grandiosity, that's the narcissistic, it's not an identity. Narcissistic identity is not an authentic. The grandiose self is not the authentic self. Huge difference. Now, the grandiose self is survival, jungle mentality, either or, my greedy, your greed. It's always kind of jungle mentality. Can't love, can't trust, can't have TLC. Others ask for TLC, they attack, they can't do it. They can't do the affection because prenatal, the emotional body, the animated quality, the budding beauty got frozen with this. And you're operating from the chameleon, just like the chameleon. That was the breeze here. I know when it's breezy, it kind of muffles the sound. Hopefully it's not. I'm trying to block it a bit. Okay, so for this part 3, on skateboarding. So what I'm trying to say is, those, to use Barnett's model, the 6 personality patterns, all those 6 and the variations and nuances around it, varieties of it all. It's narcissistic, okay? It's still narcissistic. The primary needs are not met. It's considered dysfunctional and egocentric, and their behavior is to one way or another have the fantasy to get what's left in the past, to resume, develop, to have a sense of self, and be embodied in a sense. Remember, trauma, the prenatal, the emotional body goes slack, your budding beauty is frozen, your emerging self is frozen, the animated quality, feeling, real alive, called the soul and the body. You want the body to hum and feel alive and radiant like that. That's the mammal in us, so you don't want it to feel flat, empty, and hollow, and all that kind of stuff. And that's the trauma. So one way to describe the trauma is that we live to the extent that we feel. It's this quality of our feelings that determines the quality of our life. So this is the primary feeling called the golden ball, the warm radiance of your feelings, the aliveness, the radiance of your feelings. If that's all frozen, golden ball goes down the well, get a chasm or the hole like that, or a crack in the earth, or a chasm called the swoon, brain sensory numbing, you're back in the survival brain. The survival brain, okay, does either or, jungle thinking, my greedy or greed, okay, either be, it has the either be mentality, either or mentality. So this we're not meant to be like that. It took billions of years to grow the thinking cortex. The thinking cap. So because we're all cooperative, one family, human family, earth family, it's cooperative. But we actually traumatize ourselves. We're kind of reverting to some old way, and now our survival brain is co-opting our cortex to provide rationalization, excuses to carry out its either or agenda to hopefully get mother's love in the past. So no matter how convincing the person sounds, if it's coming from the survival brain, no matter how convincing it sounds, they get 10 PhDs. It's all designed to get mother's love in the past. So if they want to charm you or fool you, and but their fantasy is they want to control using seduction as power, maybe, or charm as power, let's say, whatever form it takes. Okay. They're hoping to get a better childhood past. That part of the brain doesn't know time. The person in this cursed jinx, wrestling with destiny, wrestling with this fate, wrestling with these cards you've dealt, these imprint circuit, implicit memory, procedural memory, human connections lead to neural circuits, internal working model behind the mirror. Next stop, twilight zone. There's a whole system in there based on trauma, and it's machinating around, figuring out how to get mother's love in the past. How do we get mother's love in the past? That part of the brain doesn't know time. All time is that time. So the present is still the past. So the past, the present is seen as the past. The present is just a staging, a reenactment, a compulsion to repeat. So you stage, theaterize, imaginize, I don't know, you just use the present as some kind of imaginary mirage-like past, hoping for a better past. Doesn't work, but this is the drive to get mother's love in the past. Doesn't work, you repeat. Doesn't work, you repeat. Doesn't work. Now, the way this cycling, this rigmarole, this misery machine, Mark Twain, the way this roundabout thing is going on, okay, this circling thing called Klieglos, mind repetition, hamster wheel, mindless repetition, Santiana, compulsion to repeat, Tantalus myth. Okay, the way this roundabout thing is going is because you're frozen. Trauma is a time freezing thing. You're frozen, but the need is pain. The pain drives to where's mother, but you're frozen, suspended, no time. So all time is that time. So there is time. So that's why it's like a cycling thing. So one model we've been using so far is Bergler and Ullman and Paul and Janoffs put it together. So the baby, originally what fixed him there is that he cried for love, mother said no, attacked himself. So remember, the baby's anger is a cry for love, mother blocked, turns on himself. Now in the theater of the mind, that anger animates to a monster. It's oral phase, devouring, L-I-V-E, crunched up, L-I-V-E, E-V-I, destructive. It's oral fat, wants to control the breast, devour the breast, surviving, desperate, hunger, eating, right? So that's the imagery. Block turns on himself. Now he's got a monster attacking himself. That's the cry for love to the mother. But to maintain the cry for love to the mother, he's got to hate himself, criticize himself, blame himself, attack himself like that. Way too much pain to do this. So Berger theorizes he's got to pleasurize, a little trick called psychomasochism, pleasurize. How do you do this? How do you maintain this hope for mother's love while you're hurting yourself? And hurting yourself is the byproduct of crying for mother's love. But the cry for mother's love turned to anger, in theory, block turns into yourself. So, okay, now enter Alman of Paul. When your own anger attacks yourself, okay, the set points in the brain of the happy chemicals of oxytocin and serotonin are too low. Dopamine kicks up the chase for mother. You're in an emergency, you're in pain, where's mother? So dopamine says chase. So now your future focus, chase for mother. But all you can really do is mainly search for reminders of mother. So you're chasing for reminders of mother. These reminders are ersatz self-objects, symbolic mother. Yeah, whatever form it takes, cookies, gambling, money, promiscuity, money, shopping, so material things, matter, food, so on. When you have that item for a moment, okay, in the theater of the mind, you think that's mother, so click, there's mother, oh, you get the chemistry. You're triggered up when you had mother, you think there's mother. When you think there's mother, you get the good feeling above the pain you're feeling. Temporary goes down, dopamine chase. Chase for the future, for the ersatz self-object, which is also known as an ATM, an addictive trigger mechanism to trigger the past to feel better. And now you got this misery machine going, this rigmarole. You're chasing for something to remind you of the happy good old days, which gives you happy chemicals above the pain. Now the pain, the set is too high with the pain. The cortisol, adrenaline, however that goes about, the pain is too high. Numbed or not numbed, I don't know, but the pain is driving us. The rejection by the mother, the mother's wasn't available, she was too busy on her end trying to get a better past, wasn't present, but was so blind, too focused on herself. Baby felt unseen, unmirrored, misunderstood. Baby's life's going to perish. Anger turns on himself. He pleasurizes it by remembering the good old days, even if it was the womb utopia days. Whatever oneness he can create, he'll feel better for a moment. It goes down, chase again. It goes down, chase again. This is the hamster wheel idea. So we can spend our whole lives still in the past, and our whole lives just chasing for mother in the past. All dysfunction, all oral fixations, so oral fixations, okay, and the thoughts around it, either or slogans, jungle mentality, either or thinking, oppositional thinking, migrate, all this kind of either or, okay, and jungleism mentality, cynicism, sarcasm, all these things, gratify, infantile megalomania, all of these things are oral fixation, sarcasm, oral fixation, cynicism, infantile megalomania, all this primary grandiosity. You're taking refuge, you're frozen in this idea of grandiosity. It's all about you, you're center stage. Okay, so that means you're active to chase for something. So that's the drive to reach. So that's greed, of course. It's insatiable, nothing you get works. You don't have the chemical wherewithal to love because oxytocin is too low. Oxytocin, everybody knows, is the love bonding hormone. They can't bond or connect it. It doesn't work. In fact, ironically, they might get a love opportunity, but it triggers the pain. So they reject it. They chase again. They reject it. Chase, reject. They can't do it because the set point is too low with trauma. That's the curse of mothers being so blind and so preoccupied with their trauma. They're not meaning to hurt the baby. They just don't know that they're in pain themselves. They don't know that they're hoping for better past on themselves. They don't know that they might turn to the child to mother them, to soothe them, to comfort them, to take care of them, to nurse them, so to speak, okay, to be there for them and let them feel important. So the mother doesn't want to feel alone. The mother turns to the baby like a symbolic mother, like a teddy bear for her, to comfort her. Babies are not put on the earth to be mother to the mother. One of life's little switches. So baby's overwhelmed by this kind of thing. So he'll go along with the role. He'll go along with the role of rescuer. I'll do what I can, mother. But in the process, of course, he's got to freeze up the soul. He'll be angry. The anger turns in himself. Then he'll be a smoker, drinker, gambler, and that maintains the tie to the mother. So his dysfunction of pain management and being in that state of pain management mode is the tie to the mother, loyal to the mother, and one day, he's waiting for mother to love her. So he hopes somehow magically he'll get a magical time machine will appear and mother will correct it. It doesn't work. So you're kind of frozen. Only consciousness, only the light of consciousness can get you out of this. Only awareness can get you out. If you're in the dark about this, you're just doing it blindly like that. We repeat because we don't remember, we don't know, we keep repeating until we do bring it to light of awareness. Okay, Mr. Freud's most famous essay, memory, repeating, working through. We don't remember, so we repeat. Okay, when we remember, we can stop repeating. We want to now know we couldn't have known, so build your ideas and then set it up so you can feel what you couldn't have felt. The ultimate goal is to feel what you couldn't have felt. That's the morning abriac, catharsis, phoenix fiber, okay, orbs, inside out film, the orbs rushing up, the firebird, the phoenix, the emotional knowing, experiential knowing, the body comes alive again, pin pops out, okay, and the gold ball, okay, and this now, or the kiss of Snow White, now you wake up, you're inside, you're alive like that, or the marriage in the fairy tale, that means you're doing, comes from the feeling, you're doing, your behavior can come from the feminine, the feeling, the moon, and the symbolized by the Tai Chi symbol, the yin yang symbol, the feminine, okay, the moon, sun, night, day, feminine, being, doing from the feeling, being, and body, being, doing, active, masculine, feminine, marriage, masculine, feminine, symbolized king and queen, prince, okay, princess, prince, marriage, like this. That's the symbolization of inner dynamics. Myths and fairy tales are code for inner dynamics. They're metaphors and symbols for what's going on the inside. We're trying to know what's on the inside. It's real, but we don't see it. We create symbols called fairy tales and so on. They're not real, but they help us point to something invisible that is real. It's helping us to connect with what's real inside of us. So we create these dream stories. Myths and fairy tales are kind of like dreams that come from the unconscious, just like you get dreams. Fairy tales are like commonality of our psychological trauma patterns. Myths and fairy tales. It's nice to be outside. Yeah, I got a nice view here. With the smokers. This place is getting more popular. When I first discovered, no one came out. Now the smoker comes. Okay, the topic about the oral fixations, each one is a separate door, takes a couple of hours to run through. So we do the gambling, and alcohol and drinking, smoking, emotional eating, foods and all that. Another thing that happens is the Fausti bar, gratification, aggressive, negative magic gesture. Because one thing that can happen is the child might think that they can master or undo, quote unquote master, or not feel the pain of what happened. If they become the aggressor and then treat others the way they've been treated by being active, not passive, they think they master. Nonsense. A mother hurting the baby doesn't master how she had been hurt by her mother. Doing to her child what her mother had done to her doesn't undo what had been done to her. So this is the confusion of all this, because into fusion, and because when there's too much pain, the mother might cross over. When the mother was a baby, she was hurt by her mother. She crossed over, identified the aggressor. I got this issue of her being the aggressor attacking herself. So she has a child to scapegoat to feel tension release. If she's shaming herself, she needs a kid on the scene to shame, to disperse the tension. Child, you play me. You play helpless old me. You play helpless wounded shamed me. Okay, and then that disperses how I'm shaming myself. Okay, now that scapegoat role. Okay, and today in part 3 here is called the little girl. It's called the little girl in the closet. And the story we're going to do now here. I just found it this morning here. So there's a short story. There's a short story by the famous fiction. I think she's a juvenile, like teenager fiction, adult fiction, children's fiction novelist. The famous Ursula Le Guin lady, right? I don't really know her too much, honestly speaking. I don't really read much fiction. But so she has a story about based on Dostoevsky, the famous Dostoevsky. Apparently he said in one of his novels, this fictional scenario in the novel, he posed the question, Dostoevsky, he posed the question, gee, I wonder how we can teach the reader about the scapegoating dynamic. How could we make the reader be aware of the scapegoating thing. That inside there's a shame self, unloved self, rejected self, okay? Because our anger is attack on ourselves. You see, how do we make people know that inside there's a shamed, unloved, unworthy self? Devalued, matchstick girl, poor girl, pain. How do we make people aware of this? Okay. Now, your soul being in this wounded condition, okay, number one, it starts off benignly, where mother doesn't meet your needs, so you're scared and all that. Okay, but you're still yourself. You can manage it, maybe, right? The problem is when you're angry at her, and then she says, you cannot be angry at me, and then anger goes to yourself. Now you become this devalued, really miserable situation like that. Okay, then in society out there, there's a scapegoating. You want others to shame, to see and disperse, to externalize something in you. People on the outside being in a devalued, shame-like thing, okay, homelessness, poverty, and all, okay, problems like that. That externalizes, makes you think it's not within. It is within. But when there's a symbol of something that represents the dream in you, somebody represents it, okay, it's a trick of distraction where you think it doesn't belong to you. So you are hurting yourself. The tension disperses when you see people in a devalued way. So this is the scapegoating phenomenon. So I think she was saying that Dostoevsky and later on another guy, the famous James guy, picked up on it. But he started, I think, according to her, that what if we create a fictional utopian kind of place, like everyone's happy kind of thing. So imagine a town with meadows and the jasmine in the air, the smell of jasmine in the air, warm summer breeze, and the whole lifestyle is like a festival or like a picnic or beautiful buildings, and you know, it's a lot of activities, fun things, and you can make what you want. You can imagine how it is. So the guys might want pretty girls, and I don't know, the kids want to have little games and things, whatever it is. So imagine it's really a happy place. And the thing about this town is, it's not based on worshiping some, somebody or something. There's no leader. There's no religion or politics. Just imagine this kind of thing. And she says in the story, something's off, isn't it, right? Something's wrong. You're right. You're right. I'll tell you why, she says in the story. So in one of those beautiful buildings, deep in the basement, there's a closet, like barely the size of a small closet. And there's like a huddled up, hunched over little child in there, suffering, impoverished, gaunt, bony. The stomach is bloated. There's flies and moths, and it's just awful. It's just really the saddest, most miserable. She tries to paint the most miserable kind of sad thing like that. Now that kid in there, because that kid is in this little closet, she gets, somebody hands her a bowl of food, or a bowl of rice, or I don't know, a bowl of porridge or something. I don't know what it is. And that's all there. There's no affection. There's no communication. She whimpers. She utters sounds. The child like that. So they keep the kid alive, and that kid being in there is the reason. She holds. She contains. She absorbs all of the tension of the other people, and they get to be happy. So if that kid weren't there, you see, then all those happy town people would feel in themselves, and attack each other and fight amongst themselves. But the kid is holding it for them. He's like the mother. The little suffering little baby child is kind of like the mother who's holding what they can't hold. So back up. In regular development, the baby communicates the stress. Mother holds it. I contain it. I understand. You're telling me, baby, you're telling me I'm holding you at the wrong angle. You're telling me you're not comfortable. You're a little stressed here. Let me meditate on this. Let me reverie on it. Let me mentalize it. Consider. Think about it. Let me figure this out here. You're telling me that you're a little uncomfortable. You want me to hold you a little bit like that. You'll be more comfortable. I think that's what it is. Aha! I think I got it. Let me try. Let me make the adjustment. Woo! Baby says thanks. So mother held the message, held the stress, held the signal, held it, understood it, metabolized it, figured it out, and responded, and baby was calm. Okay, that's failed with all those happy villagers like them. The mother didn't do it that for them. So That's sort of the source point of all this. So this little kid in the basement is seen as a fantasy that somebody's suffering. That means somebody's holding all those happy people, quote unquote happy people like that. So it's a famous story. I didn't know this existed. My goodness. Hang on a second. It's called again? The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. It's only like a 10-minute read. It's a short story. And there's different ways to think about it. The author was trying to make you realize that this is a metaphor for kind of how things are, right? So, like when you're children, you see TV, you see the famine on TV, all these children, the bloated bellies, dying of bones and flies, and kids, no water, and all this suffering like that. You see all that, right? So it's kind of there. What do you do, right? So in her story, all of the people in the happy town, when they become like, I don't know, 8 years old or something, they're led to the basement to see the kid. The kids are all distraught, they have nightmares, they're upset, they're crying, how can this happen, how can this be, that we're happy at the expense of this little kid, because of this kid we're happy and he's suffering like that, how can this be, no, I can't deal with this. And this goes on, and all reactions like that, but ultimately most people kind of feel helpless about it. They feel helpless and just ignore it, head in the sand. Now some people say, I can't deal with this. They walk away. The ones who walk away from Omelas. So they're the ones that, now the ones who walk away say, I don't want to be happy at the expense of this child like that. I don't want my good times and partying. It's there only because there's another human being, a little child, little girl suffering with flies in the dark and hunched over, malnutrition, and getting kind of physical. She's blistering and getting physical things, and she doesn't care anymore. She whimpers and stuff, and she's getting sicker, and then she's getting a little damaging or something. And because of that, because this child's doing all this, I get to sing and dance and play music with my friends like that. I get to have the horse race and have these colorful things, a beautiful buffet, nice building, and that's on the condition of that. I don't like this. This is unethical. This is wrong. I'm out of here. So she says the people who say I'm out of here, there's two versions of it. One is people really feel upset by it. They kind of identify with that. But what do they do with it? They don't know how to process it. So anyways, they don't want to feed into it or participate in it, but they go away. And in a way, ironically, the ethics of those people going with, they're the scapegoat of the potential ethics of the other people. The partiers have a potential ethics. They'll represent the ethics, and they're the scapegoat as well. So many of the people who leave because of the distraught feeling of being somebody to be scapegoated, they themselves are kind of scapegoated in a different kind of manner, whereby they're going to send away, expel away any possible goodness that those people don't recognize about themselves. Now, those people who are leaving, they don't want to deal with this, so they end up kind of in a disadvantaged place. Now, there's another version, she says, of the people who walk away, called, well, she doesn't say it there, but the follow-up, an article about it, I'll read in a minute. She said that some of them are conscious scapegoats. They're going to be conscious. They're going to live in two worlds. So they're going to do what they can to be healers or teachers or communicators to help bridge and help fix the situation like this. So that's what therapy is about, and philosophy, and she even said, even Miss Gwynn, for making the story, Dostoevsky, and she quoted the James guy like that. So the ones who walk away from Omelas. So Omelas is the name of this fictional utopia kind of place. So let me do this here. Let me read the quote here, and then I'll continue in a different direction in a minute here. Okay. The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas is a 1973. Okay, I'm just reading from the Wikipedia blurb here. This is just a general kind of thing. All right. The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, okay, the name of the story, is a 1973 short work of philosophical fiction by Ursula Le Guin with deliberately both vague and vivid descriptions. You know what? She's a bit trickstery. She's trying to tell you it is like this. The world is kind of like that, right? There is scapegoating out there, right? The plunder system. People are having decadent lifestyles at the expense of others, suffering. Many people around the world don't even live long lives. They are malnourished, things like that. So she's just trying to present it, right? Okay, so Ursula Le Guin with deliberately both vague and vivid descriptions. Like, she's vague because she says, "Oh, this paradisical place. You know what? I don't know what it is. You make it up. Oh, guys, you want pretty girls? Okay, there it is. Oh, ladies, you want this? Okay, there it is. Oh, you want that? Oh, you want to gamble? Whatever you think it is. You see." So she's not going to give you some true escapism. All right. So that's one of the clever parts about it. Both vague and vivid descriptions. The narrator depicts a summer festival in the utopian city of Omelas, whose prosperity depends on the perpetual misery of a single child. The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas was nominated for the Locus Award for Best Short Fiction in 1974 and won the Hugo Award for Best Short Fiction in 74. Okay, the plot. The only chronological element of the work is that it begins by describing the first day of summer in Omelas, a shimmering city of unbelievable happiness and delight. In Omelas, the summer solstice is celebrated with a glorious festival. The vibrant festival atmosphere seems to be an everyday characteristic of the blissful community whose citizens, though limited in their technology and resources, are all still intelligent, sophisticated, and cultured. Omelas has no kings, soldiers, priests, or slaves. The specific socio-political economic setup of the community is not mentioned. Okay, so she's saying it's not based on like a leader you're supposed to worship, you're supposed to thank some officer of the plunder system who created poverty to give you this good time. It's not based on that, right? It's based on the scapegoat. So that's a personal thing, and outwardly. The narrator in the story reflects, quote, Omelas sounds, in my words, like a city in a fairy tale, long ago and far away, once upon a time. Perhaps it would be best if you imagined it as your own fantasy bit, assuming it'll rise to the occasion. For certainly, I cannot suit you all, so you make it up, all right? Everything about Omelas is so abundantly pleasing that the narrator decides that the reader is not truly convinced of its existence, and so elaborates upon the final element of the city, its one atrocity. The city's constant state of splendor and serenity requires that a single unfortunate child be kept in perpetual filth, darkness, and misery. Once citizens are old enough to know the truth, most, though initially shocked and disgusted, ultimately acquiesce to this one injustice that secures the happiness of the rest of the city. It's not a real happiness. This is like a neurotic escapism happy. These people are not really happy. They're denying their soul, and the kid is making them unaware of their soul. All those residents have that soul. That kid is their soul. You see, so him in existence like that makes people unaware of it. So they're in a delusional state of denial. So they're just in escapism mode. They're just having schadenfreude and laughing at other people's expense. That kind of good time or something. But they're really miserable underneath. They feel like that kid, but it's just unknown to them. So the whole thing's a sham, in other words. But they don't know it. They think it's so happy. Once citizens are old enough to know the truth, most, though initially shocked and disgusted, ultimately acquiesce to this one injustice, secures the happiness of the rest of the city. However, some citizens, young and old, walk away from the city after seeing the child. So some walk away. Now these who walk away, they kind of go on their own, so they basically go on their own, and they don't go back. Where they go, we don't know, but they don't go back. The story ends by saying, quote, "The place they go towards is a place less imaginable to most of us than the city of happiness. I cannot describe it at all. It is possible it doesn't exist. But they seem to know where they're going, the ones who walk away from Omelas. What's it called? Omelas. Omelas is, she says, she saw a sign and just reversed the letters. Omaha or something. Anyways, okay, so next part here. Okay, Mr. Lichman says, this group in the town, they didn't want a leader. This wasn't about some kind of leader keeping them together. This was about a scapegoat keeping together, hoping that a scapegoat would relieve them of scapegoating each other, as exists in the utopia of Omelas, by the maintenance of a permanent scapegoat by his people. See Coleman 1995, which I did. So here's Coleman 1995. Le Guin's paradise. A metaphor for so many of our modern paradises of the modern world is based on the unhappiness of another, an innocent, helpless child. The townspeople's passive acceptance of the escaped child reinforces denial of their own and others' unconscious trauma shadow. It is certainly easiest to identify with the walkaways as spiritual heroes, individuals who fulfill the needs of the group for honesty and incorruptibility. Those who take that role may experience themselves as being on the path of self-development. A subgroup of these people could certainly be called heroic individualists, people with courage not to live in a society which so blatantly compromises its own values, and who leave the group and its collective limitations behind in the quest for self-knowledge, meaning, and wholeness, whatever the challenge there is. In the wilderness of this, the individual faces his unconscious, his shadow. He's going to know himself. This is, long ago, this is what is referred to as how people become healers, or spiritual people like that. Some of the walkaways of Omelas can certainly be such individuals, those who forsake the group to begin the individuation process. But so often, the most developed of these conscious, heroic walkaways themselves end up as victims of a profound scapegoating process. These walkaways carry our guilt but cannot bear the load. They are creations of the group more than self-creators. Yeah, that's what we said before. So the people who leave this fake life, they're overloaded with their trauma, and some say, "Oh, let me be conscious and figure this out." So it kind of branches off. They may feel like heroes, but they have too little self-development to take up the hero's way. The hero's way just means you're going to individuate and find yourself, right? Find your real self, not a fake self where you treat your soul the way that your mother treated you, and you have a scapegoat to make yourself feel better. Some people need, back to the Jody story from the TV show Stony Brook. He's a good example of that. This Asperger's kid. Nobody knew him like that. He's kind of vulnerable and disadvantaged or something. Everyone was picking on him. He was bullied and picked on and all this. And the poor Jody said to the Stony Brook guy, the actor who plays the Hawaii Five-0, Jack something, right? Why are they picking on me, Stony? Some people need to find ways to make themselves feel better about themselves. Some people need to find ways to make themselves feel better about themselves. Okay. When they scapegoat you, Jody, the tension they feel inside of them is dispersed, it's drawn out, and they feel a little relief when they scapegoat you. They don't know how to face it themselves. They don't have self. They don't look in the mirror like Michael Jackson. We don't have the Michael Jackson song Man in the Mirror here. It's an old show, 50s, right? In the future, Jody, there'll be a song called Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson, and maybe people will look in the mirror. There'll be shows called Inside Out. You want the outside of the world to be better, look on the inside. Inside Out. So these ones also are kind of like big scapegoat in a way, right? These ones who walk away from the town, but in a way they're kind of a scapegoater too. So the honest ones who can't bear this are kind of in a way scapegoater as well, because they don't have enough help or understanding on how to heal. They don't do well in this effort. But it's kind of like you're in a dilemma, right? You suffer living a lie, but you don't know how to heal. Okay, the wounds they sustain are too deep to heal. Okay, the conscious scapegoat. So you got the people who walk away who don't know how to heal, and the people who walk away, the way they try to heal is at least they try to be conscious of their situation. Okay, this version, okay, Le Guin doesn't really talk about this, but in this version, we can call these people potential interpreters or teachers. So they don't 100% leave, but they don't really feed it, but they don't fully leave. They're kind of in two worlds, right? These are individuals who neither accept a comfortable place in the scapegoat system, nor put themselves beyond the human need that creates it. What distinguishes this response is that however much such individuals abhor the psychology of victimization, they are always fully cognizant of their own role in creating and accepting the scapegoat process that they abhor. So they're part of it, right? They're part of the system. They benefited from it, they're part of it, but they abhor it. Such knowledge makes it far more difficult to quote-unquote walk away as either a hero or a victim, although some may try to do so. More often, they deal with their discomfort and guilt by seeking to understand and eventually communicate their role in the collective. Like Le Guin herself, they find a way to do so in the role of maybe artist, like Le Guin stories, maybe artist or teacher, some kind of teacher or therapist, maybe. Okay, they locate themselves on the boundary of society, one foot in the wilderness and the other in the town square. Their interpretive stance, sometimes behavioral, at other times verbal, is a comment and an attitude rather than a prescription. So the attitude is heal. If the attitude is we gotta heal. Enter Reuben Fine's essay, The Age of Awareness. Come on, people, can we get out of the age of narcissism, out of the age of anxiety, and now let's shift to the age of awareness. So he's calling for the age of awareness. And he thinks there's enough material to genuinely say we can declare ourselves in the age of self-awareness, self-understanding, the age of awareness. This is Reuben Fine, the chess player. He was like the top #1 or #2 chess player in the world or something. Reuben Fine, he's a shrink. So his argument is we have enough material to declare ourselves into the age of awareness. You can borrow the age of Aquarius. You could maybe borrow it like that. This is the dawning of the age of awareness. Okay, I'm not too keen on this essay, to tell you the truth. It's a sad story. Although she says she says it's the most popular. Of all her stories, she says this is the one that gets the most letters, the most questions, the most reprints, the most discussed about. Her other stuff was put into films, right? She has a lot of other famous books and all that. But this is the one that gets people talking. So what I thought I would do is let the phone... okay, so I'll let the phone... okay, so here's the story, right? The ones who walk away from Omelas, Ursula Le Guin. So it's about 15 minutes, including her follow-up comments, I think. You know, I'm gonna kind of skip her introductory part. She talks about the Dostoevsky, the brothers Karamazov. It comes from that story. The central idea of this psychopath, the scapegoat, turns up in Dostoevsky's Brothers Karamazov, and several people have asked me, and then later on she found it in William James. So she gives her backstory about how she learned about this thing. So let me just skip all her backstory and just start in on the story. It begins with a clamor of bells that set the swallows soaring. Clamor of bells, and the birds are soaring in the air. The festival of summer came to the city of Omelas, bright towered by the sea. Oh, it's by the sea. Bright towered by the sea. So it's a seaside town. Hills, birds, jasmine, boats in the harbor, flags. The houses have red roofs, painted walls, gardens, avenues, old trees, great parks, beautiful buildings. And it goes on. So let's start there. So I'll let the phone read it out, and hopefully it'll read into the follow-up. The follow-up is key. She has a follow-up comment on this. Hopefully this will work. Let's see.
Of course I didn't read James and sit down and say, now I'll write a story about that lost soul.
Okay, let me wait till it lines up.
I sat down and started a story, just because I felt like it, with nothing but the word Omelas in mind. It came from a road sign, Salem, Oregon backwards. Road signs backwards. Pots, walls for lights. Pots and not nos. Omelas. Where do you get your ideas from, Ms. Le Guin? From forgetting Dostoevsky and reading road signs backwards, naturally. Where else? With a clamor of bells that set the swallows soaring, the festival of summer came to the city Omelas, bright towered by the sea. The rigging of the boats in harbor sparkled with flags. In the streets between houses with red roofs and painted walls, between old moss-grown gardens and under avenues of trees, past great parks and public buildings, processions moved. Some were decorous, old people in long stiff robes of mauve and gray, grave master workmen, quiet, merry women carrying their babies and chatting as they walked. In other streets the music beat faster, a shimmering of gong and tambourine, and the people went dancing. The procession was a dance. Children dodged in and out, their high calls rising like the swallows, crossing flights over the music and the singing. All the processions wound towards the north side of the city, where on the great water meadow called the green fields boys and girls, naked in the bright air, with mud-stained feet and ankles and long, lithe arms, exercised their restive horses before the race. The horses wore no gear at all but a halter without bit. Their manes were braided with streamers of silver, gold, and green. They flared their nostrils and pranced and boasted to one another. They were vastly excited, the horse being the only animal who has adopted our ceremonies as his own. Far off to the north and west the mountains stood up half encircling Omelas on her bay. The air of morning was so clear that the snow still crowning the 18 peaks burned with white gold fire across the miles of sunlit air, under the dark blue of the sky. There was just enough wind to make the banners that marked the racecourse snap and flutter now and then. In the silence of the broad green meadows one could hear the music winding through the city streets, farther and nearer and ever approaching, a cheerful faint sweetness of the air that from time to time trembled and gathered together and broke out into the great joyous clanging of the bells. Joyous. How is one to tell about joy? How describe the citizens of Omelas? They were not simple folk, you see, though they were happy. But we do not say the words of cheer much anymore. All smiles have become archaic. Given a description such as this one tends to make certain assumptions. Given a description such as this, one tends to look next for the king, mounted on a splendid stallion and surrounded by his noble knights, or perhaps in a golden litter borne by great muscled slaves. But there was no king. They did not use swords, or keep slaves. They were not barbarians. I do not know the rules and laws of their society, but I suspect that they were singularly few. As they did without monarchy and slavery, so they also got on without the stock exchange, the advertisement, the secret police, and the bomb. Yet I repeat that these were not simple folk, not dulcet shepherds, noble savages, bland utopians. They were not less complex than us. The trouble is that we have a bad habit, encouraged by pedants and sophisticates, of considering happiness as something rather stupid. Only pain is intellectual, only evil interesting. This is the treason of the artist, a refusal to admit the banality of evil and the terrible boredom of pain. If you can't lick 'em, join 'em. If it hurts, repeat it. But to praise despair is to condemn delight, to embrace violence is to lose hold of everything else. We have almost lost hold. We can no longer describe a happy man, nor make any celebration of joy. How can I tell you about the people of Omelas? They were not naive and happy children, though their children were, in fact, happy. They were mature, intelligent, passionate adults whose lives were not wretched. Oh miracle, but I wish I could describe it better. I wish I could convince you. Omelas sounds in my words like a city in a fairy tale, long ago and far away, once upon a time. Perhaps it would be best if you imagined it as your own fancy bids, assuming it will rise to the occasion, for certainly I cannot suit you all. For instance, how about technology? I think that there would be no cars or helicopters in and above the streets. This follows from the fact that the people of Omelas are happy people. Happiness is based on a just discrimination of what is necessary, what is neither necessary nor destructive, and what is destructive. In the middle category, however, that of the unnecessary but undestructive, that of comfort, luxury, exuberance, etc., they could perfectly well have central heating, subway trains, washing machines, and all kinds of marvelous devices not yet invented here, floating light sources, fuelless power, a cure for the common cold. Or they could have none of that. It doesn't matter. As you like it. I incline to think that people from towns up and down the coast have been coming into Omelas during the last days before the festival on very fast little trains and double-deck trams, and that the train station of Omelas is actually the handsomest building in town, though plainer than the magnificent farmer's market. But even granted trains, I fear that Omelas so far strikes some of you as goody-goody. Smiles, bells, parades, horses, blah. If so, please add an orgy. If an orgy would help, don't hesitate. Let us not, however, have temples from which issue beautiful nude priests and priestesses already half in ecstasy and ready to copulate with any man or woman, lover or stranger, who desires union with the deep godhead of the blood, although that was my first idea. But really it would be better not to have any temples in Omelas, at least, not man temples. Religion yes, clergy no. Surely the beautiful nudes can just wander about, offering themselves like divine Sophiels to the hunger of the needy and the rapture of the flesh. Let them join the processions. Let tambourines be struck above the copulations, and the glory of desire be proclaimed upon the gongs, and, a not unimportant point, let the offspring of these delightful rituals be beloved and looked after by all. One thing I know there is none of in Omelas is guilt. But what else should there be? I thought at first there were no drugs, but that is puritanical. For those who like it, the faint insistent sweetness of druze may perfume the ways of the city, druze which first brings a great lightness and brilliance to the mind and limbs, and then after some hours a dreamy languor, and wonderful visions at last of the very arcana and inmost secrets of the universe, as well as exciting the pleasure of sex beyond all belief, and it is not habit-forming. For more modest tastes I think there ought to be beer. What else belongs in the joyous city? The sense of victory, surely, the celebration of courage. But as we did without clergy, let us do without soldiers. The joy built upon successful slaughter is not the right kind of joy. It will not do, it is fearful and it is trivial. A boundless and generous contentment, a magnanimous triumph felt not against some outer enemy but in communion with the finest and fairest in the souls of all men everywhere in the splendor of the world's summer. This is what swells the hearts of the people of Omelas, and the victory they celebrate is that of life. I really don't think many of them need to take druze. Most of the processions have reached the green fields by now. A marvelous smell of cooking goes forth from the red and blue tents of the provisioners. The faces of small children are amiably sticky. In the benign gray beard of a man a couple of crumbs of rich pastry are entangled. The youths and girls have mounted their horses and are beginning to group around the starting line of the course. An old woman, small, fat, and laughing, is passing out flowers from a basket, and tall young men wear her flowers in their shining hair. A child of 9 or 10 sits at the edge of the crowd, alone, playing on a wooden flute. People pause to listen, and they smile, but they do not speak to him, for he never ceases playing and never sees them, his dark eyes wholly wrapped in the sweet, thin magic of the tune. He finishes, and slowly lowers his hands holding the wooden flute. As if that little private silence were the signal, all at once a trumpet sounds from the pavilion near the starting line, imperious, melancholy, piercing. The horses rear on their slender legs, and some of them neigh in answer. Sober-faced, the young riders stroke the horses' necks and soothe them, whispering, "Quiet, quiet, they're my beauty, my hope." They begin to form in rank along the starting line. The crowds along the racecourse are like a field of grass and flowers in the wind. The festival of summer has begun. Do you believe? Do you accept the festival, the city, the joy? No. Then let me describe one more thing. In the basement under one of the beautiful public buildings of Omelas, or perhaps in the cellar of one of its spacious private homes, there is a room. It has one locked door, and no window. A little light seeps in dustily between cracks in the boards, secondhand from a cobwebbed window somewhere across the cellar. In one corner of the little room a couple of mops, with stiff, clotted, foul-smelling heads, stand near a rusty bucket. The floor is dirt, a little damp to the touch, as cellar dirt usually is. The room is about 3 paces long and 2 wide, a mere broom closet or disused tool room. In the room a child is sitting. It could be a boy or a girl. It looks about 6, but actually is nearly 10. It is feeble-minded. Perhaps it was born defective, or perhaps it has become imbecile through fear, malnutrition, and neglect. It picks its nose and occasionally fumbles vaguely with its toes or genitals, as it sits hunched in the corner farthest from the bucket and the 2 mops. It is afraid of the mops. It finds them horrible. It shuts its eyes, but it knows the mops are still standing there, and the door is locked, and nobody will come. The door is always locked, and nobody ever comes, except that sometimes, the child has no understanding of time or interval, sometimes the door rattles terribly and opens, and a person, or several people, are there. One of them may come in and kick the child to make it stand up. The others never come close, but peer in at it with frightened, disgusted eyes. The food bowl and the water jug are hastily filled, the door is locked, the eyes disappear. The people at the door never say anything, but the child, who has not always lived in the tool room, and can remember sunlight and its mother's voice, sometimes speaks. "I will be good," it says. "Please let me out. I will be good." They never answer. The child used to scream for help at night, and cry a good deal, but now it only makes a kind of whining, eh-ha, and it speaks less and less often. It is so thin there are no calves to its legs, its belly protrudes, it lives on a half bowl of cornmeal and grease a day. It is naked. Its buttocks and thighs are a mass of festered sores, as it sits in its own excrement continually. They all know it is there, all the people of Omelas. Some of them have come to see it, others are content merely to know it is there. They all know that it has to be there. Some of them understand why, and some do not, but they all understand that their happiness, the beauty of their city, the tenderness of their friendships, the health of their children, the wisdom of their scholars, the skill of their makers, even the abundance of their harvest and the kindly weathers of their skies, depend wholly on this child's abominable misery. This is usually explained to children when they are between 8 and 12, whenever they seem capable of understanding, and most of those who come to see the child are young people, though often enough an adult comes, or comes back, to see the child. No matter how well the matter has been explained to them, these young spectators are always shocked and sickened at the sight. They feel disgust, which they had thought themselves superior to. They feel anger, outrage, impotence, despite all the explanations. They would like to do something for the child, but there is nothing they can do. If the child were brought up into the sunlight out of that vile place, if it were cleaned and fed and comforted, that would be a good thing, indeed, but if it were done, in that day and hour all the prosperity and beauty and delight of Omelas would wither and be destroyed. Those are the terms. To exchange all the goodness and grace of every life in Omelas for that single, small improvement, to throw away the happiness of thousands for the chance of the happiness of one, that would be to let guilt within the walls indeed. The terms are strict and absolute, there may not even be a kind word spoken to the child. Often the young people go home in tears, or in a tearless rage, when they have seen the child and faced this terrible paradox. They may brood over it for weeks or years. But as time goes on they begin to realize that even if the child could be released, it would not get much good of its freedom, a little vague pleasure of warmth and food, no doubt, but little more. It is too degraded and imbecile to know any real joy. It has been afraid too long ever to be free of fear. Its habits are too uncouth for it to respond to humane treatment. Indeed, after so long it would probably be wretched without walls about it to protect it, and darkness for its eyes, and its own excrement to sit in. Their tears at the bitter injustice dry when they begin to perceive the terrible justice of reality, and to accept it. Yet it is their tears and anger, the trying of their generosity and the acceptance of their helplessness, which are perhaps the true source of the splendor of their lives. Theirs is no vapid, irresponsible happiness. They know that they, like the child, are not free. They know compassion. It is the existence of the child, and their knowledge of its existence, that makes possible the nobility of their architecture, the poignancy of their music, the profundity of their science. It is because of the child that they are so gentle with children. They know that if the wretched one were not there sniveling in the dark, the other one, the flute player, could make no joyful music as the young riders line up in their beauty for the race in the sunlight of the first morning of summer. Now do you believe in them? Are they not more credible? But there is one more thing to tell, and this is quite incredible. At times one of the adolescent girls or boys who go to see the child does not go home to weep or rage, does not, in fact, go home at all. Sometimes also a man or woman much older falls silent for a day or two, and then leaves home. These people go out into the street, and walk down the street alone. They keep walking, and walk straight out of the city of Omelas, through the beautiful gates. They keep walking across the farmlands of Omelas. Each one goes alone, youth or girl, man or woman. Night falls, the traveler must pass down village streets, between the houses with yellow-lit windows, and on out into the darkness of the fields. Each alone, they go west or north, towards the mountains. They go on. They leave Omelas, they walk ahead into the darkness, and they do not come back. The place they go towards is a place even less imaginable to most of us than the city of happiness. I cannot describe it at all. It is possible that it does not exist. But they seem to know where they are going, the ones who walk away from Omelas. Afterward. Since The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas was published in 1973, no story I've written has been reprinted so often or brought me so many letters. Readers ask me to tell them what the story means, or where the ones who walk away are going. Or they tell me what the ones who walk away should do instead of walking away. Some are indignant, angry, because the condition on which the happiness of everyone in Omelas depends is so cruel and so arbitrary. Why do the people of Omelas accept it? Why don't they rescue the child in the closet? The answer to that question is in the story, because all the well-being of everyone else depends on the suffering of the child. The moment the child is rescued, everybody else will begin to suffer as hopelessly as the child does now. That's how things are in the story. It's the rule of this game. You can only play a game, chess, soccer, parable, if you follow the rules. Games and stories are imitations of life, ways of playing at life, sometimes ways of learning how to live. Some of the rules may appear both cruel and arbitrary. But if you want to play the game, or live the life, you have to follow them. Most of the questions I get about Omelas, however, I can't answer. They're based on the assumption that the story itself is the answer to a question, and want me to explain it to them. But it isn't an answer. It's a question. I didn't think the question up. I invented this particular way of asking it, yes. But I'd found it asked by two writers I read earlier in my life. It sank deep into my mind, and came out again at last in the form of a story. In Fyodor Dostoevsky's novel The Brothers Karamazov, Ivan Karamazov tells his brother the story of a little girl, horribly abused by her own mother, locked in a filthy outhouse, weeping, beating her heart with her tiny fist in the dark and the cold. And Ivan says, "Imagine that you are creating a fabric of human destiny with the object of making men happy in the end, giving them peace and rest at last, but that it was essential and inevitable to torture to death only one tiny creature, that baby beating its breast with its fist, for instance, and to found that edifice on its unavenged tears. Would you consent to be the architect on those conditions?" "No, I wouldn't consent," said Alyosha softly. "And can you admit the idea that the men for whom you are building it would agree to accept their happiness on the foundation of the unexpiated blood of a little victim? And accepting it, would remain happy?" "No," said Alyosha. "I first read The Brothers Karamazov when I was 17 or 18. 10 or 15 years later, reading the American philosopher William James's talk, The Moral Philosopher and the Moral Life, I came on this passage. If the hypothesis were offered us that millions should be kept happy on the one simple condition that a certain lost soul on the far-off edge of things should lead a life of lonely torment, what except a specifical and independent sort of emotion can it be which would make us immediately feel, even though an impulse arose within us to clutch at the happiness so offered, how hideous a thing would be its enjoyment when deliberately accepted as the fruit of such a bargain?" Dostoevsky's novel was first published in 1880. James gave his talk in 1891. The novel wasn't translated into English till 1912. It's possible that James read it in German or French, or read some reference to this passage, but it seems likelier that he and Dostoevsky were pondering the same timeless moral problems each in his own way. Both men were Christians. Both posit a plan for making all mankind happy on the one simple condition of the absolute misery of an unimportant person. Dostoevsky frames the question in essentially religious terms, James philosophically. Dostoevsky's Ivan asks Alyosha, and us, would you consent to carry out the plan, would you accept the happiness, on that condition? And Alyosha answers, no. James thinks that a specific moral emotion or response would immediately, inevitably lead us all to that same answer. The intensity of the question is sharper in Dostoevsky, but the answer is just as clear in James's quiet language. My story presents the same plan, on the same condition, and involves the reader even more directly in considering the question, but asks the question without offering any answer to it. All we see is that, even when so much is to be gained for so many at such a comparatively tiny cost, some of the people of Omelas, but only some, refuse the bargain and turn their backs on the city of happiness. In talking about the meaning of a story, we need to be careful not to diminish it, impoverish it. A story can say different things to different people. It may have no definitive reading. And a reader may find a meaning in it that the writer never intended, never imagined, yet recognizes at once as valid. I got just such a shock of revelation and recognition from a letter sent me a couple of years ago by a young reader, who wrote, "The city of happiness, well, we all live there and people go about their business with full knowledge of the child in the closet. And then at times I refuse to believe we are in the city of happiness and that instead we are all ones who walked away. Until I read in the news that a man was waterboarded 103 times in 1 month. Then I think we are all in the closet. Too stupid to understand what life we could have outside the walls around us. This isn't the correct interpretation. It's simply one way to read the story, a painful, profoundly responsible way. In this view, we're not the utopian planners of Dostoevsky's tale, nor are we the free, judging minds of James's proposition. Omelas already exists. No need to build it or choose it. We already live here, in the narrow, foul, dark prison we let our ignorance, fear, and hatred build for us and keep us in, here in the splendid, beautiful city of life." UKL, 2016. About the author. Ursula K. Le Guin was born in 1929 in Berkeley, California, and lives in Portland, Oregon. She has published 21 novels, 11 volumes of short stories, 4 collections of
Okay,
essays, 12 books for
goes on.
children, 6 volumes of poetry, and 4.
Where's that, hang on a sec. The name, Obelus, she said, somebody asked her, how did you get the name Olivus? She said, oh, here we go. I was driving on the road, and I saw a road sign. She lives in Oregon, right? So she saw the sign for the city of Salem. So she took the O from Oregon and then Salem backwards, add the O. O-M-E-L-A-S. Oh, okay. So Salem, Oregon. Salem O and then backwards, right? Don't you read your own signs backwards? Don't we all do it? So I think she's just trying to make you aware of this phenomenon. Everybody has a wounded soul, and when you realize it, you begin the journey, the hero's journey, the second journey. So the people who left, they're considered at midlife. Okay, the moment you realize your soul is like that traumatized girl, hunched over in pain and suffering, so you feel that. The moment you realize you feel that, because the first half of life, your false self sponges it, numbs it over. That's you think it's liberty, right? You think you're happy. All you're doing is living in a way to make you unaware of the pain and call that happiness. It's not real happiness, right? But you don't know it otherwise, right? So all you know is just defensive living. Bergner calls it like a sponge. It dries out at midlife, and then it can't absorb it. Like the pain coming up, the sponge of your false life absorbs it, and it keeps going. But finally, that sponge dries out. It dries out the sponge. Then oh my God, now I'm feeling it. So at midlife, it comes to your attention in the form of Freudian slips. You say rude things, or you have a nervous breakdown, or you're rude all of a sudden, or in a bad mood, or you're irritable all of a sudden. So at midlife, you might notice this kind of thing. Now, some people are extremely inherit a lot of money, so they just keep themselves amused in omelas, amused. So most people are in a kind of a amused mode. What she's talking about, the horse races and the people engaging in all these activities, so that's the omelas, right? So I think she's saying, some people will recognize this. Now the author I read earlier said they don't know how to heal from it, but they try, and some are going to be conscious and seek help. So this is key at midlife. There isn't it's hard to get help at midlife. Like you ask around. I want to talk to somebody. I want to understand what's going on. So I was scrambling myself. I was reading just whatever I could find, kind of thing. Finally, oh my God. I found James F. Masterson's excellent book called The Search the Real Self. Bing, bing, bing. Okay. So it was in a library book sale. It's funny, somebody donated the book to the library. They never posted it. They put it aside for a sale. They never had it available to be borrowed. They just had a bunch of books donated, but they never put it on the shelf, right? But they had a clearance sale. So $1 sale. Oh, what's this little book? Your pink covered book. Oh my God, click. Oh, now things make sense. Okay, it's called Object Relations Theory. Okay, you study how you internalize your relationship. Creates a stencil, schema, assumption model, internal working model. Okay, and you see things through that. Now, if that model's based on trauma, again, that's what we talk about. Okay, it goes on from there. So it's called Developmental Object Relations Theory, or the Masterson approach. So he's a great author. That's what kind of got me started, Masterson. And then, he's got a few followers, Candace Orchid and Ralph Klein and a few others like that. Not too many. That's unfortunate. Not too many. Masterson had to go on his own, open up his own institute kind of thing. Bergner, the second major author was Edmund Bergner, a very prolific, popular author in the 40s and 50s. So we have a lot of his best quotes in our collection. And I think you'll only find his quotes here. If you type in Bergner in the search, you'll find, hopefully it'll show up properly. Karen Horney, I think, was the third one. Karen Horney, and then the more obscure ones, Mahler, Klein, and Fairbairn, the little older ones kind of thing. But they contribute pieces of the puzzle, right? Now we had recently Joseph Barnett and his wife Tess Forrest. Excellent stuff there. You know, Tess Forrest made the point that if the child comes onto the scene, okay, if he's put into the role of scapegoat, that violates his vital self, his core self, his true self, right? He's got to play the role of scapegoat to please his parent. So what's supposed to happen is whatever role the kid ends up playing for the family that the parents approve of, it's got to be a role that the child can maintain his vital self. He can maintain his interest, curiosity, and development. It's got to be what she calls a role congruency. That the role the kid plays for the parents to please the parents. All right, what do you want, parents? What do you want, parents? As long as it's congruent to his budding beauty and emerging self and sense of self, a real self and true self and embodiment sense of, then it's role congruent. That's okay. You want those kids to not violate and give up themselves to please the parent. That's role incongruent. The scapegoat is a role incongruent thing. So parents who are mindful are not going to do that, right? Parents who are mindful are not going to treat their kid like in the story here. And the parents are doing it. I can't help it. It's the rule. It's the rule or something. Like she said. No, it's not the rule. So we got to be aware of ourselves. To you, it's got to be. Oh, how's the battery? Oh, hang on. Let me check the battery. Oh, 20%. Oh, let me get the cord. Hold on a second. I'll give you a second. Okay, let's play the song here. Hang on a second. Oh, let me try out another song. Hang on. While I pick up the cord here. Hang on a second. I want to try out another song by the band Mystery. I've been playing music from the band Mystery lately. Out of Quebec, a great band. Let me try another one here. Hold on a second. I don't have it lined up here. Hold on, give me a second. Let me try one. The song we played earlier by them was called "The Last Cup of Wine," "The Last Glass of Wine" or something. The live one. Let me try something from their latest, their 8th album, their most recent album, the 223 album. Oh, the connection's kind of slow here. I'll give you a second. It's got a slow connection. Yeah, the most recent album of theirs is this one called Behind the Mirror. And the first song I played already. Oh, the album is called Redemption, and the first song is Behind. Great song. I've talked a lot about Behind the Mirror. The last song on this album, their 8th album, 2023 album, is called, it's this one here. It's a longer one. Let me just play the last part of it. Oh, that's the mirror one. Hold on.
in sight? Have I missed a train, or have I arrived? Or is this how the story ends? When the last word's been sang and the last note's been played, when finally the curtain falls, is this how the story ends? Wandering souls never die. Travelers from different times. This train is heading straight to the other side. Tracing the railway lines.
I'm just experimenting around with their music, with the catalog here. But that first one, Behind the Mirror, is great. Man, oh man. We also play a song called Looking for Something Else. That's a great song. This one here. Looking for and How Do You Feel? Another one called How Do You Feel? A great song. Illusion Reign's okay. The Last Glass of Wine's okay. What's the other one? Yesterday I tried to play Chameleon Man. That's okay. Hang on. Okay, we played Slave to Liberty. They mean escapism, denial. They mean that. Slave to your denial. Submerged, we played Submerged, about birth trauma, good song. And also the Inner Journey Part 1 we played, and a couple of others. Okay. Okay, now let's okay, now I want to complement the quotes here. Hang on a second. So now let's go back to 3016 here and pick up on the topic of scapegoating. So most of the quotes have been discussed already, not so much in the last video, but the two prior. The last video was on BPD and narcissism and the self-help exercise about Dear Past Me. So we added a new self-help exercise called Dear Past Me. based on the cartoon. Okay, again, Vogel and Bell have pointed out that children may be scapegoated. Sorry. Again, Vogel and Bell, 1960, have pointed out that children may be scapegoated in order to maintain a family in equilibrium. Quote, the tensions produced by unresolved conflicts were so severe that they could not be contained without some discharge. It's not surprising that some appropriate object was chosen to symbolize the conflicts and draw off the tension. Okay, now they go on to, like, if there's several kids in the family, how do they decide which one? They discuss that, right? So there was a checklist of 6 points about the selection, who's going to be chosen for this role of scapegoat. They had a list there like that. It keeps the parents together. They're immature. I mean, they're not healed. They got a lot of tension between the two of them. So it's the emotional, Murray Bowen's emotional trait just funnels like to the triangle. Now again, if the child does play a role that stabilizes the parents, that role can be compatible to the child's true self. That's called role congruency. If not, it's incongruent and the child suffers by sacrificing himself. So he scapegoats. So his soul will look like that little girl in the jail and all that. Okay, next one here. Okay, let's say, yeah, here's an interesting point, this one here. Let's say you do realize that mother put you in this situation. Be careful, because then you might want to scapegoat her, right? So that's the temptation here. While on the one hand, the hard one, remembering of the mother's fill in the blank, cruelty, sadism, whatever, can represent the successful analysis of denial, there can, on the other hand, be excessive blame to the point of scapegoating. The subjectivity of the mother as a woman with her separate needs and separate desire can be lost. So you got to remember that your mother was impaired. She's a human being. She's just in so much pain, filled with a sense of entitlement, righteous entitlement that she should get love from her mother, turns to the baby for her. And she's blindly doing this and she has no awareness about it. But she's still a human who's traumatized and she thinks she perished without mother, and she's reaching for mother, turns to the kid for her. So she's still a human, she's just confused, she's lost, she's traumatized, everything's love or a cry for love. The abused child, so the mother, right? The mother is an abused child. Okay, these mothers, as abused children, they have often lived in a punitive atmosphere and may experience strain trauma, relational trauma, personal trauma, developmental trauma, weaning trauma, and scapegoating and inconsistent care. These traumatized children tend to be hypervigilant, distrustful, with impaired narcissism, lack of ego development. Okay, now this mother, this very same mother, if the child says, "Mother, can I have your TLC?" Each one's bid for TLC triggered the mother's painful history of deprivation and scapegoating, which led her to respond to the child with hollow protection, often laced with criticism and blame. Look at that, eh? So just in general, I think I have some food in my I had some berries. Luckily today the shop had my favorite mulberries. I buy mulberries when they're very rarely available. I'll buy mulberries. So think about the hysteric, okay? The codependent, the pleaser, who wants tenderness, who wants affection. From the obsessive, oh, they freak out, they back off. They can't do it, right? They have a huge phobia of feelings. Taboo on tenderness, taboo on feelings. Okay, affect phobia, fear of feelings, dysfunctional feeling system. And the hysterical partner who shows feelings but they want to be seen, wanting affection and TLC. From the obsessive, see, that's why the obsessive and the hysteric as opposites, they compete all the time. She wants tenderness, he has a fear of it, he just wants to be left alone and have somebody say he's a good boy, and have her around to display feeling, but don't ask for feeling. Just show your feeling, but don't ask me for feeling. And they have this, that back to the marriage between the, go to Barnett's article about the marriage between the obsessive and the hysteric, which we discussed here. It was a talk he gave in 1969 in Mexico, I remember. Okay, families. Okay, so families are trained to, so in therapy, families are trained to step outside entrenched currents of interaction, such as scapegoating, and into a more circular and recursive way of thinking about their difficulties of functioning. Do people realize that they might contribute to their own scapegoating? Scapegoating, okay, its function protects the group from internal conflict. So that girl in the story, her being scapegoated, protects all those quote-unquote happy people fighting amongst themselves. If that little girl wasn't there, they don't fight amongst themselves. But she's there, they channel all their hate and rage and fighting onto the kid, and they see it expressed in the woundedness. The kid is being the victim of all the hate all those happy people feel, and then they feel discharged, so they have a momentary relaxation, or they can play, or whatever they're doing. Sorry. But if that kid's not there, no one to scapegoat, then play the song Repressed Hostility Blues. If that little girl in the story wasn't there, they'll have the repressed hostility blues. They'll feel sad that they have no one to discharge, to scapegoat. They'll feel sad. That's that song by Katie Lee. Oh, here's a good one from Elizabeth Howe. Yeah. Bystanders have the potential power to perpetuate or diminish scapegoating. In ways unknown to themselves, bystanders may collude with the process of traumatic harm to selected scapegoats. Yes, all those people who stayed in the town of Omelas, they're perpetuating it, right? So you can take the story like an outer or as an inner. You can do it both ways with her story. Okay, this one here. This is from a book called The Scapegoat Complex. I just found it just this morning coming out here. By Sylvia Pereira, I think. We apply the term scapegoating to whoever, to fill in the blank, who are accused of doing something wrong. This serves to relieve the scapegoaters of their own responsibilities and to strengthen the scapegoater's sense of power and righteousness. In this current usage, yeah, see, when a kid is scapegoated and he's being naughty in the neighborhood, let's say in the neighborhood, one kid is scapegoating, cause problems in the neighborhood, right? And people approach, confront the parents. You know what they do? Do you realize what victims we are? All the things we do for our kid, we're suffering. We gotta do this. We gotta do this. You know, when we were children, our lives were so much. He is so much better. He's an ungrateful kid. We're victims, so they turn it around like that. So they feel righteous. In this current usage, a search for the scapegoat relieves us also of our relationship to healing, to our unconscious. So if you have a scapegoat, you don't got to look within the mirror. You don't got to know yourself. You don't got to self-understand yourself. You don't got to look behind the mirror, Twilight Zone. You don't got to do self-help exercises like Dear Past Me, you know, the theater of the mind exercise. Study defense mechanisms like projection. Projection is the means of bringing repressed material to you. Don't got to study the emotional triangle theory, masters, you know. So if you're projecting, then you avoid healing, right? Okay, she says she's a follower of Mr. Young here. Okay, the unconscious they call the shadow, right? All right. In Jungian terms, scapegoating is a form of denying the shadow, or denying your secret self, your hidden self, your repressed self, your unknown self. You're denying your inner child of the past. You're denying your own wounded, traumatized kid in the basement scene. You're denying your own soul. You're denying your inner child of the past. Okay, everything about you that you don't know, you're denying it. It's called your double self, your secret self, your hidden self, your repressed self, your secret, the one who walks with you, who's not like you, who is you. Someone's living your life, really. You know nothing about it. That child is actually everybody in that village, including the people who walked away. The people who walked away are trying to heal that child in themselves. Some can, some can't. But the conclusion was, be mindful, right? They know where they're going, but we don't, right? I mean, they imagine, they have a vision of healing the inner child of the past. So in the theater of the mind exercise, when you're in the audience, on the stage, long story short, when the inner child, your own inner child, comes on stage. So when that little wounded girl, hunched over, with flies and all the problems, with the belly, bloated belly, and bony and starving, almost half dying, when he comes on, he can't speak anymore. That kid won't be able to speak anymore. That's when you nurture and thank your child for putting up with all this, and show some gratitude and now that's called self-reparenting, famously known as self-reparenting. Your mother didn't. You got to reparent yourself. That's what they mean. Reparent your inner self like that. So Carl Menninger's book called The Human Mind, 1930 book. Where's the battery here? Okay, yes. I got this battery thing. I got to use this. Okay, back to Miss Pereira. 1986 book called The Scapegoating Complex. Complex means pattern, recurring thing that we see again and again and again. It's a complex, right? So emotional triangle, same idea. Child playing a role to discharge and draw off the tension that the parents feel. Scapegoating. Okay, so if parents do scapegoat, they don't know themselves, they don't look in the mirror, they don't heal, right? It's a defense mechanism. Scapegoating is a defense mechanism. The parents doing this, they're doing it to assuage their own pain, to deny their own pain, to bury their own pain. They're doing it to get away from it. They're a slave to this. Like, they don't know they're doing this. They're a victim of this. So they're addicted to this. And then they become dependent on the kid. They become addicted to the kid being like that. They want the kid like that. So Woodman had the thing about this wealthy town. They're all driving extremely luxurious, high-end vehicles, right? Six-figure, whatever, cars. They're all live in mansions. They're all multi-millionaires, every one of them. Except there's one little corner where there's homelessness and poverty and usage and all that stuff. They wanted it that way. They encouraged it that way. No one wants to fix it. They loved it. They drove by with the corner of the eye. Oh, okay, good, I feel better. They hear about something. Oh, they know they're there. They know they're there. They feel better. They feel free. They feel free to travel as part of this place because they know they're there. In the corner of the mind, those wealthy people in that rich town, they know they're there. You see, they're containing. They're the mother. See, they're like the suffering homeless people are like the mother for the millionaires, and they feel like, oh, mother, I can play because I'm safe. They're safe. They're holding. They're not going anywhere. They're safe. They're stable. They're a stable object, right? And then I know they're there at the corner. I know they're not going anywhere. They're poor. They're suffering. They have no money, no nothing. No this, no that. They're stuck there. Aha, aha, aha. Secure base. I can be free. So in child development, when the mother's stable, then the kid explores and they're free and they're playful. Okay, that's what they're doing. They're recreating and they're trying to get their developmental needs. So they scapegoat those few dozen people in that town. So there's a couple of dozen of them, I don't know, several dozen people in a homeless squalor like that. And I don't know, 50,000 millionaires all around. They're all playing and happy and kind of like the story. O'Malley's, what's it called now? Okay, so all those millionaires, okay, when they were babies, they never had the developmental process of having a safe mother who was there where they can play and discover and trial and error, know what they like. The world's my oyster. I want to play. I feel special. I'm happy. Babies are very happy in a blissful state, right? They didn't get it. It was crushed. The bottle was used. Mother wasn't around. Crushed. But they got, millions of dollars. But the psychology, what do they use the money for? Well, create some poverty. That'll be the mother, and they'll still try to have that playful. Both those. Yes, well, just some people coming out and taking some photos here. Okay. Oh, a second. Where are we here? Let's go back to the quote. Miss Pereira, back to Pereira here. In Jungian terms, scapegoating is a form of denying the shadow. What is seen as unfit to conform with the equal ideal or with perfect goodness is repressed, denied, split off, and made unconscious. And all that you make unconscious, you devalue, discard, and give it a label, let's say. Fill in the blank regarding the label. We do not consciously confess our faults and wayward impulses. We do not often enough even see that they are part of our psychological makeup. Yeah, they're part of your psychological makeup. Those millionaires don't realize that those squalid people are their soul. That's their psychological makeup. They see it externalized. That means they deny it. So it's symbolized out. So it's expressed like a painting. So it's out. They see it out, and they're holding it for them. And then they turn around and say, "Oh, since you're holding it, my mother should hold my feelings. You're holding my feelings. You're my mother." So those several dozen people in that town she was talking about are in effect psychologically the mother. This suffering child in the toolbox, whatever, that's the mother for all those people. And they're free and playing and happy and playing and bouncing around and doing all these things. They're like little children. They're operating from the psychology that in normal development, children are meant to be free and happy with the regular, stable, safe mother who doesn't exploit her power to use the child. Most mothers are in pain and they want to get a better past. So many mothers are not being proper mothers to allow the child to live the happy time, right? The words moister face. So all these people in this Wind story, they're having the world's oyster phase. The horse races and the buffets and all those things we're talking about, right? Next part here, where are we? But we are acutely aware of their belonging to others, the scapegoats. So we see the shadow clearly in projection. So the scapegoats are the mirror of your shadow self, your wounded self. They're the mirror. It's within you. That suffering kid in the toolbox, whatever, tool shed, that's within you. It's a mirror to see what's within. You created to know what's within. So those people in Ocella, whatever it's called, this Le Guin story, that kid in the tool shed, whatever, it's a mirror for them to see that's how they feel. That's that's their real self. That's their true self. This unloved, shame, suffering. That's it. That's how they feel. They feel like that kid. All those people should say, "I feel like that kid." They don't. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to feel it. Deny, deny, deny. Escape, escape, escape. Some people say, "Wait a minute. I actually do feel like that." Okay. That's the beginning of getting out of that state. That's when they left the town. That's what that means, right? And the scapegoater feels a relief without the burden of carrying what is unacceptable. All right. Those who are identified with the scapegoat, on the other hand, are identified with the unacceptable shadow qualities. They feel inferior, rejected, and guilty. They feel responsible for more than their personal share of shadow. Okay, I didn't get into this part yet, but some people may be overly identified with this role. Too much or something. They did nothing wrong. Okay, let's just leave it there. How are we doing here? Oh, let's check. Just check the weather. What time is it here, anyways? It's 4 o'clock. All right. How do you feel now? Should we play that song? Some of it. Anything else? What am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something. Hold on a second. Oh, maybe I can read out this one. Oh, let me see if this will read out. 3019. Hold on a second. Let's see if it reads out.
Who Walk Away from Omelas is a 1973 short work of philosophical fiction by American writer Ursula K. Le Guin.
With deliberately both vague and vivid descriptions, the narrator depicts a summer festival in the utopian city of Omelas, whose prosperity depends on the perpetual misery of a single child. The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas was nominated for the Locus Award for Best Short Fiction in 1974 and won the Hugo Award for Best Short Story in 1974. Plot. The only chronological element of the work is that it begins by describing the first day of summer in Omelas, a shimmering city of unbelievable happiness and delight. In Omelas, the summer solstice is celebrated with a glorious festival. The vibrant festival atmosphere seems to be an everyday characteristic of the blissful community, whose citizens, though limited in their technology and resources, are still intelligent, sophisticated, and cultured. Omelas has no kings, soldiers, priests, or slaves. The specific socio-politico-economic setup of the community is not mentioned. The narrator reflects, Omelas sounds in my words like a city in a fairy tale, long ago and far away, once upon a time. Perhaps it would be best if you imagined it as your own fancy bits, assuming it will rise to the occasion, for certainly I cannot suit you all. Everything about Omelas is so abundantly pleasing that the narrator decides the reader is not truly convinced of its existence and so elaborates upon the final element of the city, its one atrocity. The city's constant state of serenity and splendor requires that a single unfortunate child be kept in perpetual filth, darkness, and misery. Once citizens are old enough to know the truth, most, though initially shocked and disgusted, ultimately acquiesce to this one injustice that secures the happiness of the rest of the city. However, some citizens, young and old, walk away from the city after seeing the child. Each is alone, and no one knows where they go, but none come back. The story ends by stating, the place they go towards is a place even less imaginable to most of us than the city of happiness. I cannot describe it at all. It is possible it does not exist. But they seem to know where they are going, the ones who walk away from Omelas. Wikipedia/this group was apparently looking for a scapegoat, not a leader, hoping that a scapegoat would relieve them of scapegoating each other, as exists in the utopia of Omelas by the maintenance of a permanent scapegoat by its people. Coleman, 1995, pages
11-12. C'est Littman.
Oh, C. Lichman. Stopped. Let's see if it continues. Hang on. It's frozen, huh? Sometimes it does that. It just read the first part, then it stalled on me. Hold on a second. Wikipedia, right? And then the rest of it. So go to your mission, submitted for your approval and consideration. This is from the Coleman. This is from a book. This quote comes from a book called. Hang on. Do I have it here? It's okay, it's okay. Not great, but it's okay. I have it here. Oh, it's on the phone I'm holding. Look up Coleman. Hang on a sec, what is that? Okay, oh, it's called Up From Scapegoating. Up From Scapegoating. Oh, he's got a TED Talk. Oh, Beyond Scapegoating, Arthur Coleman. Oh, I see. I just noticed he's got a talk here. Arthur Coleman talks about scapegoating. Should we take a chance? Let's see.
I'll try to show, it also is such a general process of groups that it is part of how they develop, grow, and become more creative.
Oh geez, guys gotta go to a barber, wear some clean clothes. My goodness, looks so disheveled, all that. Oh jeez.
It began with child sacrifice.
Okay, he's not delivering it. The writing is okay, his book is okay. Okay, it's hard to. The book's okay, let's see. Okay, there's the book, yeah, there's his book there, that guy there. That unkept scapegoated fellow here. Up From Scapegoating, Awakening Consciousness in Groups. He was trying to apply, lofty ideas from Mr. Jung and Bion and see how it can enrich the idea of scapegoating, something like that. I didn't read the whole thing. How do you feel? Let's close up with some mystery here. Let's close up with the song How Do You Feel by the band Mystery. When the song ends, I'll hit the stop button. The heat's pretty hot up. It's pretty hot here. 40. It's 40 where I'm sitting here. Okay, this concludes part 3 of our preview run on the topic. There'll be a part 4, and it will end it on the 4 parts. The best part, I think, is that article by Bell and Vogel and Bell, 1960 article. That's a good one. Oh, Repressed Hostility Blues. Should we play that one? How do you feel? Okay, let's close it up here for today. How's the wait, how's the battery? Okay, we're okay. All right. I'll see you in the next video here. Thanks very much. I hope something of help came across. Ultimately, my hope is that my ask. Apparently, in the men's groups, they conclude their speech with my ask. What's your ask? My ask. Okay, my ask is that you ask yourself. My ask is that everybody ask that you ask yourself, or I ask myself, or consider the idea. My ask is that somebody potentially hearing this might consider the idea of possibly what if they were to ask themselves. So ask that what if I were to ask myself, ask that, what if I were to ask myself if my having played a role for my parents, how that role placated them, served them at my expense. I'll see you in the next video.
Like heroes and fate.